Morning guys, welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, I'm Joanna and I have lost about 130 pounds with Mounjaro over the past 18 months. I make videos on this channel about my diet, about my lifestyle, and we just chit chat about things like that. So what are we going to be talking about today? Today I have decided to make a little video about what the hell is Mounjaro? It's something I've been asked a lot over the last 18 months from people that knew I was on the injection, mostly family, and I think it's something that a lot of people are curious about, don't really know what it is or have an assumption about what it is. And for people who are already on the injection or thinking about starting it, I just want to give a little bit more information, take away a little bit of the unknown around it really. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're looking for a little bit of information, stick around, and if you do enjoy the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's get into it. Alright, so what the hell is Mounjaro? So Mounjaro is actually part of a family of drugs. These drugs are called GLP-1s. Now, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1. This is not a chemistry exam, but I think it is important to understand what these things are, especially if we're injecting them into our bodies. Oh, just a small disclaimer before we get into this. Anything I'm talking about here is obviously my own personal experience. Please do not take it as medical advice and speak to your own doctor or physician before you start any medication. Alright, so GLP-1s. They are produced in our gut. They then send a signal to our brain that tells us when we are full. So they help regulate insulin resistance and control blood sugars. Now, in people who are insulin resistant or suffer with obesity, we have learned over time just to ignore this hormone. So in my personal case, I was overweight my entire life since I was a young girl. I mean, I remember being 7 or 8 in dancing shows and having to get the biggest size of costume. That's how long I suffered with this. So really, our bodies and our brains have learned we don't need to listen to this signal. We can just ignore it. So what Mounjaro does is it helps to amplify that hormone. It's almost like a kind of hormone replacement. So Mounjaro is actually a dual agonist, is what it's called, and it works on 2 hormones in our body. It works on GLP-1 and GIP. Both hormones help to regulate this insulin and send this hormone up to our brains to tell us when we're full. Now, it's not the first of its kind. There are other drugs such as Ozempic, which I'm sure everybody's heard about, that are also in this class of drugs that work on 1 hormone, just GLP. So the thing that sets Mounjaro apart is that it works on 2 hormones. And in a lot of the studies that have been done, people who are on Mounjaro tend to lose a little bit more weight than those on Ozempic. So that's the difference between the 2. Alright, so first of all, sorry if this video is a little bit cutty. I have a lot of information that I want to give you guys and I just want to make sure it's right, so I'm just taking little breaks in between video shots just to make sure everything's accurate. I don't want to give anybody any wrong information. So a little bit about my Mounjaro journey and why I started with it. So I started with it because, like probably most people watching this, I had tried every diet under the sun. Every single one I tried. Weight Watchers, Slimming World, Herbalife, 360 Detox, other diet pills, just Cambridge diet, everything. And nothing worked. It's just, nothing worked. I would lose a lot of weight and then it would all come back on. So when I actually heard about Ozempic first, I think everybody did, and what was happening in the States with Ozempic, but there wasn't really much information in the UK yet. It wasn't actually here. I think it was out in the States way before it came here. It was actually my friend that mentioned it to me in the Christmas. And so what I wanted to do is, once I took my first injection, I really, because I felt it very immediately, I wanted to find out everything I could about it. So other than watching every single YouTuber I could possibly find that was talking about this, they were all American though, so it's a little bit of a disconnect because obviously the UK experience is different. We use a different pen in the UK compared to the States. In the States it's single pens for each dose, in the UK we have the quick pen. But what I did was I read 2 excellent books. The first one was The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung. Now this book does talk a little bit, well, it talks a lot about fasting, but it talks about how our metabolism can become dysfunctional A very, very good book. I would recommend reading it. And the other one I read, which really spoke directly to me, was Magic Pill by Joanna I've. Now, Joanna I've done Ozempic. He didn't do Mounjaro, but like I just explained, they are the same family of drugs. They are very, very similar in their side effect profile and what they do to your body. So this is a very good book. It talks about the potential risks and dangers of taking it, but weighs that up very well against the possible benefits, especially if you're quite overweight. So I read both of those books. That meant I wasn't going into this blindly. I was going into it informed and understanding what any potential risks could be and what to prepare myself for physically and mentally. Emotionally is a whole other thing. We can talk about more emotional change on a different day. So talking about Mounjaro, going back to it, what the dosing schedule is for Mounjaro is it goes from 2.5 milligrams all the way up to 15 milligrams. Now 15 milligrams is the max you can go to on it. And how it works is you're supposed to go up every single 4 weeks as you progress through this. So you would max out around about 6 months, I think. Now the problem with that is I saw it very, very early, is that if you get to 15 milligrams, you have nowhere to go. And if you are in a very, very bad metabolic state, and you don't fix your habits, once you get to that 15 milligrams, it eventually will dilute down and stop working for you. Or at least this is what I heard. Now, being aware of that, I watched another very good doctor on YouTube called Dr. Tina Moore, I think it is, and she does an Ozempic Done Right course that specifically talks about doing this as low and as slow as you possibly can. It's also very targeted towards women, which I really like. I think she's a hormone specialist for women in the United States. So I watched that whole course, would recommend watching it if you guys are just starting out. And she talks about how you want to stay on the lowest possible dose for the longest amount of time. You don't want to rush up these doses. If you rush up the doses, you will also get you have higher potential to get more significant side effects. So I have stayed as low as I can, and even now at only 18 months I'm on 7.5 milligrams. So I'm only halfway up. I have lots of room to go. If I ever start to panic or things start to go down a bad road for me, I know I have all this room that I have to work with before we get to a space where it stops working. So when to move up your dose is really when you feel you're starting to plateau. So when your weight is plateauing or when you're feeling it's not effective with you, that's the right time to move up the doses. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the half-life of it. Mounjaro has a half-life of 5 days. So that means it takes, if you are taking Mounjaro, I think it's 30 days for it to get completely out of your system. But it's also why we take it once a week, because by the time you get to the half-life, it's starting to wear off and come out of your system. So you will feel huge satiety around day 1 or day 2, and it will start to dilute down around about day 5, and then on day 7 you would take your next injection. That's why I split my doses, so I take 5 milligrams on a Friday and 2.5 milligrams on a Monday. I like to do that because I keep my dose low then, but also it tides me over for the full week and I don't feel the massive cravings coming back. It's not so bad now, but when I first started, I really needed that additional support. My cravings were completely out of control. It was like you would be starving and having a buffet in front of you every day and trying to tell yourself not to eat the buffet. That's the best way I can describe it. So that's what I was fighting every single day, and this really helped control that. Now it's a different story because I've learned a lot of new habits, and I'm sure anybody else will get to the same, that's doing this will get to the same place. But when I first started, I really needed that help and that crutch to be successful in my weight loss. Okay, so a little bit about GLP timelines. Everybody thinks these are brand new medications. They are absolutely not brand new medications. They have been around for 25 years. Yes, I wish someone had told me about them 25 years ago, but they have been around from the early 2000s, mostly for type 2 diabetes. The first big one was Ozempic, or I think it's called Wegovy in the United States, and that is a semaglutide. So as I said, that's just one agonist, GLP-1, and that came to the UK in 2019. Now, I didn't know about it in 2019. Wish someone would have told me. So then we have Mounjaro, which it went to the US in 2022 and the UK, I think, in 2024. So it's still quite tricky to get any of these drugs on the NHS. Access is also very restrictive, actually. I think people think these are really easy to get, and I mean, I don't know if people are getting these from the black market or from their beautician or whatever. It's certainly not somewhere I would get something that I'm injecting myself with. I would only ever get something like that from a registered pharmacist. But to get it on the NHS, there are serious barriers up. I think you need to have a BMI of 40 plus and have a medical condition, which is a bit ridiculous because if you have a BMI of 40 plus and you don't have a medical condition, you are probably headed towards it. So maybe an intervention would be better than a cure, but the NHS is a story for another day. I love it, but there are definitely some areas for preventative medication that I think could be improved. But anyway, Mounjaro was the first dual agonist, so GLP-1 and GIP, and it is powerful for so many people. It helps so many people get back on track with their diet and lifestyle. So that's a little bit about the timeline of these drugs. If you're ever asked, you know, it's just new and there's not been enough research, there has been a lot of research. And actually before Ozempic came out, there was other versions of it. So there was Saxenda, which is also GLP-1 but not as strong, and it's taken daily, I think. And then there's Victoza as well. I don't know if they are the same, but these have been around for a long time. They are not new. I have no idea how we didn't know about any of these. But anyway, that's the little timeline, and I'll just pop up here exactly what's going on with the NHS as well, in case there is anybody who's watching who wants to find out about how you get this on the NHS and wants to talk to their doctor about it. Okay, let's talk about the risks and side effects and misconceptions about these drugs that I've encountered. So let's be honest, these drugs are not for everybody. They are not for everybody. They can cause side effects, especially if you use them incorrectly and not in conjunction with diet and lifestyle changes. They can cause gallbladder issues in some cases. They can cause pancreatitis. However, if they are done right, I mean, I can only speak for me personally, I have never had any side effects with Mounjaro. Because I changed my diet right from the start and started exercising right from the start, I have never had a single side effect with them. And I've been on it for 18 months. So Mounjaro is not a quick fix. No GLP-1 is a quick fix. Unfortunately, we don't take it and the fat disappears. It is not at home liposuction. They need to be worked with and used as a tool. Okay, so you need to be ready mentally to make that change in your life, to change your diet, to change your exercise. If you don't do that, what will happen is it will work very, very effectively for the first month or two. You will go up the doses very, very quickly, experience bad side effects. You will lose weight because your appetite is very much reduced, especially at the start. But as soon as that stops working and that hormone effectiveness stops working, you will pile all the weight back on because you won't have learned any new habits to help cope with that. You won't have changed your body composition. So you really need to make all these changes together and use it as a tool in conjunction with wider lifestyle changes. If you know somebody who's on a GLP-1, or if you are on a GLP-1, these people and us as a community, we are not weaker than anybody. We do not lack willpower. We don't work any less hard than anybody. It's just that our body doesn't produce enough of this hormone. And I think that's a really important point for everybody to understand, for people who are on this to understand in themselves, that it is not some moral failing that you have a little bit of extra weight on your body. We all just need some of us just need a little bit of help getting things reset and starting again. So, you know, it's biology. It's not willpower. Anyway, that's what I think. So I'll pop up here what any potential side effects that I know of from Mounjaro are, and that it's basically for metabolic support. It's not weakness. So yeah. All right. So, oh yes, sorry, I've got written down a few things that I wanted to talk about. So I'm just looking down here. So there are lots of new studies coming out, loads of new studies around these drugs, because there is a lot of talk that they don't just affect your weight or your blood sugars, but I mean, I personally think it's because it's helping to fix your metabolism. If you can have a better metabolism, you can get more nutrients out of food. So there's a lot of studies about other things that these drugs help with: sleep apnea, heart disease, kidneys. Like, there's just lots of all-round health benefits to these medications, but we are just at the very, very start of the research around them. So the ones coming up are going to be retatrutide, which is a huge one. Retatrutide, I think, was from Eli Lilly, and it is going to work on 3 hormones. So we had Mounjaro, Ozempic, which was a single agonist, semaglutide. Then we had Mounjaro, which is a dual agonist, Tirzepatide. And the next iteration is going to be retatrutide, that works on 3 hormones. So, I mean, for people who are struggling or didn't find Mounjaro work for them, we have this one coming out soon, or not coming out soon, but I think it's in clinical trials, and I think it's in like the last round of clinical trials, so it could be coming next year. There is sort of hope on the horizon. And then for people who hate injections, if you haven't seen my video about how to take a Mounjaro shot, please go and watch it. I made that specifically for people who are a bit nervous about taking injections, just to take a little bit of the fear out of it. But for people that are just totally against it and don't want to do it, that's absolutely fair. But on the horizon, we do have an oral form of semaglutide coming out. I don't know where it is, but I mean, I think that would be an absolute game changer for not just accessibility, but also for cost, because there is a very high cost to these drugs that not everybody can afford, and I think they are so important that everybody should be able to afford them. So yeah, that's everything I've got. I've covered all my bullet points. I hope this helps you understand Mounjaro and GLP-1s a little bit more, and you know, when you have those conversations with your friends and family, you feel a little bit more empowered to talk about them. Thank you, if you have made it to this point in the video, for staying with me for so long. Thank you for being a part of this community, and if you do want to hear any more videos or see any more videos or hear anything from me, if you have anything specific that you want me to cover, please do drop a little comment just asking for whatever you are interested in, and I'll see if I can make that video for you. And for now, I wish anybody who is starting their journey or is underway with it the very best of luck, and we can definitely do this as a community. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, bye for now. See you next time.